This is Crave News Money with Kent Emmons.
How can a crisis, big or small, quickly turn into a bigger, overreaching government? And why people and businesses are fleeing California at record numbers? And, short of a second coming of Christ, what would it take to get them back? Joining me with the answers to these questions and more is former California U.S. Senate candidate, best-selling author, and radio and TV personality, Tom Del Beccaro. Joining me, one of California's greatest, Tom Del Beccaro. Tom, great guy, an attorney, TV, radio personality, and he's in his bat cave somewhere in Northern California. Tom, great to have you with us, man.
Great to finally be on the show. What a great network. Thanks for doing this.
Hey, it's absolutely my pleasure having you. So let's go right into it. We're all stuck here in California right now. The crisis is on. What's going to happen in this state?
Well, you know, California's always been a very unique place, right? People come here, whether it's vacation, Hollywood, tech, on and on and on. It's always been a leader. Interestingly enough, in these times, it may be one of the last states to open up, and there's going to be a lot of pressure for that to open up. I think a very plausible scenario is that with the summer heat coming, and all the doctors now are coming together thinking that this virus is going to die off in the heat and die off in the sunlight, I think the pressure will be on towards the end of May really to go back to normal, which will be a good thing because, you know, there's studies that show half of LA now doesn't have a job. That's just not plausible. We need to get our people out, back to work, and doing productive things.
Well, it seems like, you know, going into this epidemic, obviously, you know, the state was in pretty bad shape to start with, and you've been one of those guys as a reformer trying to get the state whipped back into shape. You know, how does a state like this put their people back to work?
Well, you know, this is interesting because, you know, again, going back to California being unique, you got the weather, you have the coast, you have all these benefits to doing business, right? But it doesn't mean it's like permanently good. You can push people away, and businesses have been leaving California because of things like future taxes, current regulations. But tech's here, right? But tech isn't permanently here. They've gone to Austin. They're going to other places because of taxes. So what California needs to do is become that attractive place again, because there's going to be a lot of jobs lost. They're talking 30 to 40% of restaurants will not reopen as a result of this. So California kind of has to put everything on sale again. They got to say, okay, come here, because things are better here. The business environment will be better here.
They do have to do that, but short term, I mean, right now, while you've got a lot of people in Southern California and Northern California hurting, how does the state legislature, who tends to be relatively dysfunctional, and, you know, the governor, you know, more of a empty suit, you know, good-looking haircut than an operator, how do these guys get together and actually make create an environment where people will want to actually bring these jobs back?
Okay, so it's interesting you say that. A couple of principles. One is I think the governor should sit down with the cities and the supervisors. You know, he's got this commission, this grand commission with all these big names on it, but I don't know if you saw in the fine print, it says they're going to meet twice a month. And I'm thinking, well, that doesn't sound very urgent. And how long do you plan on meeting twice a month? They should be getting together right now. But also, I've been a proponent of saying that Gavin Newsom needs to meet with the mayors and the supervisors and not do a one-size-fits-all. The key to bringing California back is to realize that LA is different than Modoc County. If there's no cases way up in Modoc County, you can open up Modoc. So bringing people together, you hear a lot of talk about the state saying to the president, you should be doing X, Y, and Z. You should be conferring with us. Well, this is Gavin Newsom's opportunity to confer with the local counties and especially in the Central Valley, because we need that food.
No, there's no question about that. Of course, they need the water to make the food, which is a whole nother side topic on that. You're a small business attorney. I mean, you do a ton of small business. You know, you're an attorney for a lot of great startups and a lot of companies that are going. What would you need to see in the state of California in order for you to encourage clients to open up here, or to even start a business here, or to open back up again?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things that they need, but most of all, they need confidence in the future. They need to know what the environment's going to be like. If you're doing a business startup, whether you're, Mark Zuckerberg or just someone doing a restaurant, the first thing you got to do, of course, is put together a business plan, and a business plan has a budget and an expectation of revenues. So the government has to give them that opportunity to say, okay, we're going to reopen. Here's what's going on, and here's what your expenses will be. And that's where the difficulty is right now. Because if you want to reopen your restaurant, I just negotiated a contract with a client and for the reopening, but it doesn't say when. I've never written a contract that says when the government allows you to reopen, right? And that creates uncertainty. So removing uncertainty is really important. So they need to gradually open up and give these people that certainty. Also, they need to lower the cost of getting back into business.
Well, I think that most of the states are. I mean, you're already seeing New York asking for a bailout of their unemployment benefits. You're going to see then Illinois probably pile on because of their pensions. I mean, you're going to see all these states, and it's going to add up. We were doing a rough math last night. It's going to add up to $2 or $3 trillion just in that sort of thing. How does is this particular crisis just a great way to take a state like California that, one, it's a beautiful state, but a financial train wreck? Is this a great excuse to say, wow, we were really off to the races and then this happened?
Well, that is the danger of it. I think it's a bad precedent. I argued in one of my recent op-eds that it's a bad precedent to bail out the states because some states are really responsible, right? And some states not so much. But they all get treated the same. And so New York was already, before this even started, they projected New York would have a $7 billion deficit. That was on the spending that they did on the things that they value, which some people don't. California, years ago, I talked about how Oklahoma taxpayers shouldn't be bailing out California for the types of thing that California wants to do. If California wants to do those things, they should pay for it themselves. They shouldn't ask the federal government. And now you have these huge budget deficits. And as you point out, they're already asking it for unemployment. That makes sense. But is it just to clear their deficit? And what does the federal government say at that point? All right, here are the conditions for us to pay for your deficit. Well, does that mean that you have to change your policies here? It's just a big mess. But I think in the rush of all of this, and this is, I wrote a recent article at the Epoch Times about this, crises turn into bigger government. Almost every major crisis, whether it was the Great Depression or 9/11, government tends to get bigger and then it doesn't go back down. So the risk here is setting a precedent that we're going to bail out the states in the future, which of course encourages them to be irresponsible in the meantime.
Tom, let's take the flip side of that. You've been a state reformer here. I know you've worked really hard to try to get the state back into fiscal, decent shape, down to fighting weight. Is this opportunity with this crisis, could this also be an opportunity, and instead of saying, give us more money, could this be an opportunity to reset?
It should be. Back in January of 2013, the city of Detroit ran out of money, literally. Couldn't write checks. And so they stopped doing things, including they stopped taking care of city parks. And so someone called them up and said, well, what do you mean you're closing the parks? And they said, well, wink, wink, we're just not going to do anything. And so you know what happened? A mower squad came up. They had a Facebook page and they said, okay, we're all meeting one day at this park. The point is that government doesn't need to do everything. And I think that gets to the heart of your very good question. Shouldn't this be an opportunity for California to say what's essential? Can we hire independent contractors as, let's say, the sanitation for the state or for the janitors for the state? We can't do everything. But you know what it's going to take to do that is leadership outside Sacramento to say, here's a proposal on how you can save money. In other words, I remember when Schwarzenegger came into office, he did a blue ribbon commission on ways the state could save money. This would be a great opportunity to do that. and will be the subject of an upcoming op-ed because you had such a good idea right there.
Hey, you know what? I'm glad to spur those ideas to guys like you who actually give a shit about the state. And you do. You work so hard for this state. Let me ask you this. Let's assume that we get out of this thing, the businesses open back up. It's going to be tough out there for entrepreneurs wanting to start businesses. Does California have any benefits? You could probably tell us this as an attorney who represents a lot of big startups. Are there opportunities that California affords entrepreneurs that other states don't, or are they going to keep going to Texas and Nevada and Tennessee and Florida?
You know, I always use this example. Way back in the day, Henry Ford was up in Michigan, and he had access to the rivers, and he put the auto industry there. There's nothing about California that is similar at this moment in time. It's not like the silicon chip can't be made in Nevada, Arizona, or Austin, or that these young minds, all these millennials with all these brilliant ideas and their startups, they can do that in a lot of places. So what California needs to do is to get back in balance with the other states and stop the leaking. You know, big companies, Toyota, Wells Fargo, Schwab, big oil companies, they're moving out of the state because they know big tax increases are coming and they want to be domiciled somewhere else. We don't want to lose Facebook and all those jobs. And even Tesla, you know, Tesla held a state competition to get that battery plant. And where did it wind up going? Outside of Reno, because the state gave them the best package. So California needs to be careful. As beautiful as it is, it doesn't mean people are going to stay. And millions of people have left California since the late 90s. We leave the country in people born here or who are living here and moving to other states. That needs to be turned around just for the brain drain alone. And if you look at the people in their 30s who have families, maybe, or thinking about starting a family, they want to go to a place where there's security for jobs. And California right now doesn't provide that security up and down the state.
Very, very true. Tom, I got to tell you, we got to leave it there. I'd love to have you back on again. I want to talk about the state of California. I want to talk about some of the things that you've been up to in helping turn the state around. This is a great state. It's a wonderful state with wonderful people, just really, really bad leadership. Tom, where do people find you?
Well, they can go to tomdel.com. It's probably the easiest, and politicalvanguard.com. I appreciate you being on. Congratulations on this new channel. I think it's exciting to reach more people. When I was in politics, I used to say you got to talk to people where they live and in terms they understand, and I'm thrilled that you're doing this.
Tom, thank you. Also, congratulations on that handkerchief. I'm going to borrow that for my next big formal thing. You are awesome. Great to have you. Tom Del Beccaro, great to have you with us, man.
All right, take care.
See you, brother.
Talk to you soon.